late, Mr. Haber is going to start the class. So we want the time of learning will not go, you won't lose the time of learning. Could be we might need the plug, but the computer sometimes now just goes off, 34B1. I should never feel guilty if I ever come late. Everyone uses the time properly, so make me feel a little better, right, Ralph? Correct? Okay. Okay, you have it 34B1. 34, over there. You're 34B1. Okay. The mission following Shmuel Omer. And Shmuel says here the Gemara is going to discuss exactly how many hadassim you need to have, how many aravot you need to have. So Rabbi Shmuel Omer, you have it, Adam? Shlosha hadassim, 3 hadassim. Good morning, Simon. 3 hadassim, ushtei aravot, 2 aravot. Amen. Lulav echad. There's 1 lulav and esrog echad, and 1 esrog. Va'afilu shnayim ketumim. Right, the specifics of how many hadassim. God bless you. We've been discussing if hadass is stolen, hadass is dried, that ravor is dry, all the different things. If it's dry, if it's cut. We discussed a little bit about if they're cut. We've been having mishnayot that says that if it's cut on top, if their rav is cut on top, it is invalid. If the hadass is cut on top, it's invalid. We're going to get, this mission is going to elaborate a little bit more about that, and never discuss how many. Here's the first time that it discusses how many aravot, how many hadassim, the number. Now, the language of the Torah says pre-eitz hada. Pre-eitz hada is a singular language, which would be 1 esrog. Anaf eitz avot, which means a myrtle branch, and yet we say it's not just 1, it's 3. We're going to see where do we get 3 from. We'll have to see that. Arvei nachal is plural. Willows. So willows would indicate at least a minimum of 2. If we, arvei nachal, that's only if we say arvei nachal means it's going on how many willows. You could also say arvei nachal. We said in the Gemara before that it could be referring to this other types of willows that are kosher, not just the willows that grow by the brook. Willows that grow in a field, not near a brook, are also kosher. So the plural is not necessarily referring to how many number of willows. It might be the different types of species. So if it's going on the species, maybe you don't need to do more than 1. Maybe you only have to do 1. And even hadassim, when it says anaf eitz avot, where do we see 3 hadassim? So the language of the pasuk doesn't indicate 3. It says anaf eitz avot. Doesn't say anfei. Anaf eitz avos is something, leaves that cover the stem. Doesn't say how many you need, how many stems you need to have. Anaf eitz avot. Eitz is singular. And so the leaves that cover the branch of that's braided, that's the way we learned about the way the 3 leaves come out and they connect with each other. So we don't see from the verse clearly that you have to have 3 hadassim. You don't see from the verse clearly you have to have 2 aravot, because it's up to understanding how you translate the word arvei. Is it going on the species, different types of species, or is it going on the number of aravot? So that's why we're going to need clarification, and we're going to see different opinions exactly how many do you need. How many, you might, we're going to have an opinion in the mission that says 1 hadas, 1 etrog, 1 lulav, 1 arava. You don't need to have 2 aravot. You need to have 3 hadassim. And exactly that's the way that, you could read the pasuk that way. It says kapot marim kapot is plural, but it's written without a vav, so that would indicate kapat tamar, one lulav. So there is no argument regarding how many lulavim you need to. It's clear. There's no. Everyone said you have one lulav. Everyone says one etrog. The argument and the dispute is going to be in the hadassim and the aravot. Is it, is it one? Is it three? And then they're going to have another dispute. What about if it's cut on top? If the hadassim are cut on top. Until now, we said that if the hadas, we had a Mishnah, previous Mishnah, that stated if the hadas is cut on top, on lamed beis, it says it's invalid. It's pasul. And here we're going to have an opinion. The Mishnah is going to say that maybe it would be kosher. So that's just a little bit introduction what our Mishnah is going to say. So Rabbi Yishmael Omer, Shlosha Hadasim, and maybe I'll get out the Shulchan Aruch. Regarding how the Shulchan Aruch writes this law. So we say, so the Mishnah states, Shlosha Hadasim, 3 Hadasim. You have the Mishnah, everybody? 34b1. 3 Hadasim, Shtei Aravot, 2 Aravot. So Lulav Echad, 1 Lulav. Etrog Echad, 1 Etrog. So far, everything has been exactly what we do, right? But Vafilu Shnaim Ketumim. Here comes the Chidush. Even if 2 of the Hadassim are cut on top, the Echad ain't a Katum, and 1 is not cut. So the Mishnah here records if you have 3 Hadassim, 2 are cut, 1 is not cut, then it's good. So what does it seem from here? That you have to have 3 Hadassim, but only 1 has to be in perfect shape. You got to have 1 Hadas that the top is beautiful. It wasn't cut on top. The wood wasn't cut. But we also said that there's a problem if it's dried out, that will be a limitation. Meaning if the Hadas turns white, that would be a problem. Right? So that will be so there are other limitations as well. There's also size is a limitation. Good morning. Good morning, Jaime. And again, Mabruk on the bridge. Mazel Tov again on the bridge. Yeah, we spoke about if there's more berries than leaves, that would invalidate a hadas. We spoke about if the 3 leaves don't come out simultaneously at the same row, that would also invalidate hadas. We're now on 34b1, Lamed Daled Amud Bet, and we're learning about how many hadassim do we need to have in the lulav. How many aravot do we need to have in the lulav? See, in life, the fact that we do something a certain way does not mean that there were other opinions that disagree. That's why they said differently. And maybe said you don't need to do it that way. So here that's where our Mishnah is telling us the different opinions regarding the hadassim, the aravot. That's where the issue is going to be. So let's see in the Mishnah. The Mishnah says, Rabbi Yishmael Omer, Rabbi Yishmael says, Shlosha Hadassim, 3 Hadassim, you need to have 3 Hadassim, Shtei Aravot, you need to have 2 Aravot, Lulav Echad, you need to have 1 Lulav, Etrog Echad, 1 Etrog. But Afilu Shnayim Ketumim, even if 2 of the Hadassim are cut on top, the stem, the stick that has the leaves, if it's cut on top, it's still kosher as long as the echad ain't a katum, as long as 1 stick is not cut. That's the opinion of Rabbi Yishmael. Now, like we said beforehand, we only had we said before that if the hadassim are cut, it is invalid. That was the opinion that we had beforehand, and now we see that that's not a universal opinion. We see now that that as long as even you could have even 2 cut, as long as 1 is intact, that's good enough. That's the first opinion. Comes Rabbi Tarfon and he says, Rabbi Tarfon Omer afilu shloshtam ketumim. Even if all three are cut on top, you got three hadassim. He doesn't say there's a problem if they're all cut. It's still technically kosher if all three hadassim are cut on top. Rabbi Akiva Omer, what does Rabbi Akiva say? Rabbi Akiva says, "Kishem shelulav echad ve'etrik echad." He says, you know what? You only need one lulav and one etrog. So too, kach hadas echad v'arava echad. So too, you only need one arava and one hadas. You don't need three. That's and you don't need two aravot. That's his opinion. Okay, very good. Mr. Bitesh says, Ralph says something very good. He doesn't say anything about being cut, which would mean he seems to indicate you only need one hadas, one arava, but it cannot be cut on top. It has to be in beautiful shape. I mean, and the idea is, we've learned until now that if it's cut on top, it seems to lack beauty, right? That's how we would understand. And therefore, he holds you have to have one, minimum of one. You don't need more than one, but he understands that's called beauty. If it's missing the top of the stem is cut, it lacks the beauty. So that's his opinion. Okay. So comes the Gemara, Tanya. Maybe Yishmael Omer. By the way, you should know, in the Shulchan Aruch, he brings two opinions in the Shulchan Aruch. Whether if it's cut on top, if the hadas is cut on top, if all three hadassim were cut on top, is it kosher or not? So the Shulchan Aruch, the first opinion, which should be the main opinion, says if it's cut on top, it's kosher. Even if we had in the Gemara earlier, if it's cut on top and a berry grew to cover the cut, we said that camouflage will make it kosher. But this Mishnah holds you don't need a berry to cover up the cut. Even if nothing covers up the cut, but hadassim, if it was cut on top, it's kosher. And some, the Shulchan Aruch, but then the Shulchan Aruch says, he brings a second opinion. The Yesh Poslim bin Nakdam Rosho. But there are those that disagree. There are those that say no. If the top gets cut off, it is invalid, just like we had the Gemara earlier, the Mishnah earlier. But Stam Mishnah, the first Mishnah that was stated said that if it's cut, it's invalid. So we have two opinions in the Shulchan Aruch. And the Ramah, the Ashkenaz rabbi, says it's good to be strict when you're able to get something else. Don't rely on this. Don't rely on the first opinion that says that you could use hadassim that will cut on top. It's better to be strict. Now, so the question is, what about arava? What about an arava? We're talking about hadassim that's cut. Good morning. Hadassim that's cut on top. We have in the Shulchan Aruch two opinions. Can you use it or not? But by arava, we don't find any dissenting opinion. We only say by arava, if it's cut on top, it's no good. If an arava is cut on top, it's no good. A lulav, if it's cut on top, we learned in the Gemara earlier. You take the lulav and the top of the lulav, if it's cut on top, it's also no good. So why is it that the hadassim somehow we have this allowance, according to the first opinion of Shulchan Aruch, that if it could be cut on top? So the Chafetz Chaim says a beautiful idea. The Chafetz Chaim brings from the poskim that he says, hadas, you have all the leaves that cover, they're constantly covering the branch. So even if the branch is even if the branch is technically cut, you still have those leaves that are also cut. Not even not the berries. You have the leaves that are camouflaging the cut. For you to recognize that it's really cut, you have to go ahead and pull apart, move some of those leaves on top to examine it, and you see that it's cut on top. But since the eye from a distance does not see that it's cut on top because of the leaves, so therefore it would be the hadas that even if the stem is cut on top, you're good. You're good to use it. But then the Chofetz Chaim brings the point in the Sharat Tzion. He says, but according to that, what happens if the top of the hadas is cut and there's no leaves that are actually, let's say the leaves are pulled off on top, and there's nothing covering the top. So according to that logic, it would be no good. So we have to see. He has a whole discussion about that in the Sharat Tzion. Okay, but just that gives us a little understanding of what's of why the hadas might be unique. Why the hadas there might be room to be more lenient on the cutting of the top of the hadas. And obviously, we should not. The fact that the Shulchan Aruch brings two opinions, and the second opinion states that it's no good if it's cut on top, we should avoid using something that's cut on top if we have something else. But if you have nothing else but something that's cut on top, so you have, at least there's that opinion that would allow the hadashim that are cut on top. Okay, so now let's look at the Gemara. Tanya, Rabbi Yishmael Omer. Rabbi Yishmael says, pre-Eitz Hadar. The Torah says you take a pre-Eitz Hadar. So pre-Eitz Hadar, so it's a fruit. It doesn't say Peirei Eitz Hadar. It doesn't say fruits of a tree. It says a fruit of a tree. So the fruit of a tree would indicate echad. One fruit. That one fruit is one etrog. Kapot Tumarim says, and it says kapot is spelled without a vav, so as Rashi points out. So kapat Tumarim, that means one palm branch you have to go ahead and take. Anaf eitz avot. The pasuk says you take an anaf eitz avot. So Rashi says anaf is one. Means one. It's alluding to one. Eitz means another one, and avot is referring to another one. So the language of the pasuk, by saying anaf eitz avot, is telling you that those three words are indicating three hadassim. So that's how you know you need to take three hadassim from the three words of the pasuk. Shlosha. Arvei nachal, and when it says arvei nachal, the plural language, arvei, willows, shtayim. It has to be two aravot. Vafilu shnayim ketumim. Even if they're both cut. Ve'echad she'ena katal. And it's Rabbi Yishmael says, even if you have two of them that are cut and one of them that is not cut by the hadashim, you're good. Tosfos, by the way, points out that even if you put in more than two, this is just a minimum of two aravot and a minimum of three hadashim. If you want to place more than two aravot, you want to place 5 aravot, you want to place 10 hadashim, Tosfos says you could do more. It's not a problem to do more, but this is just a minimum. And obviously, and Tosfos says this is not a problem of Bal Tosef. We said there's a prohibition in the Torah. You can't add to a mitzvah, right? If the Torah says take a lulav etrog hadashim aravot, very good. If you're going to go ahead and take tie a red flower, a rose, to the hadashim and the aravot, to the lulav, you're not only going to take the lulav, with the hadassim and the ravot, I'm going to also tie together a rose, a nice red rose. It would seem to be violation of the mitzvah. But the Torah says take 4 species, and you took what? 5. You did 5 species. Just like Birkas Kohanim that Mr. Haber so beautifully calls out to the Kohanim. If the Kohanim would say, the Kohanim say 3 psukim, 3 blessings, 3 brachot are given by the Kohanim. Because there's 3 blessings, that's why there's 3 amens, right? Yivarecha Hashem v'yishmerecha, say amen. Yirah Hashem panav elecha v'chaneka, amen. Good morning. Yisa Hashem panav elecha, say shalom. There's another amen. There's 3 amens. 3 amens represent 3 brachot. What happens if the Kohanim say they add another bracha? They say v'itin lecha lakim mitala shamayim mishmani aretz. They add that bracha to the Birkat Kohanim. That's a violation because they're adding to the mitzvah. You can't add to the mitzvah. And if you only do two psukim out of the 3, that's also a violation. It's called sigra. The Torah says don't diminish from the mitzvah. Don't do less and don't do more. Right? There, you're changing the mitzvah because you're doing something different. You're going ahead and you're doing, instead of doing 3 psukim, 3 blessings, you're doing 2. Or instead of doing 3, you're doing 4. Or instead of just taking 4 species, you took a 5th one. You added a rose. But when you just do the same with the same materials, you just use more of the same materials. So Tosfos says that's not a problem of Baal Tosef. It's not a problem of adding if you just add the same, using more of the same. But this is going to be, there's a big discussion about this as well. There are some Hasidic rabbis that the rabbis that they use more than 3 hadassim based on Kabbalah. Based on Kabbalah, they'll have more than 3 hadassim in their lulav. The average person has 3 hadassim. We don't take more than 3 hadassim. Or maybe we'll look more into this subject about doing more of these. But just Tosfos went on record. You can do more aravot, more hadassim. Tosfos says. We see by some Hasidic rabbis that they'll do more than 3 hadassim. So sometimes you'll see a picture, maybe of the Rebbe from Lubavitch, or some Hasidic Rebbe. You might see a picture with many hadassim. Correct? Many hadassim. Yes. Yeah, I presume for beautification, doing the mitzvah and doing more than you need to do. That maybe like I said, maybe I'll pick Kabbalah. There's some things in the Kabbalah that talks about why do more than 3? Why do more than 3? Okay, let's continue. So Rabbi Yishmael went on record. He says you need 3 hadassim, but even 2 out of 3 could be cut. 1 cannot be cut. Rabbi Akiva says, we're back in the middle of the Gemara. Rabbi Akiva Omer, but now we're turning the page, 34b2. Rabbi Akiva Omer, Kishem shlulav echad ve'etrog echad, just like you have 1 lulav and 1 etrog, so too, kach hadas echad, 34b2. Kach hadas echad v'arav echad. This is very similar to, this is the Mishnah, right? This seems to be repeating so far the Mishnah, but again, this is a Braita. One of the jobs of the Braita is to elaborate on the Mishnah, and we're going to see here now where the elaboration is going to come in right now, where the discussion is going to come in right now. So the Gemara says again. So the Braita brought the opinion of Rabbi Yishmael. 2 could be cut. 1 needs to be whole. Rabbi Tarfon Omer, Rabbi Tarfon said, Afilu shloshta ketumim, right? Rabbi Tarfon said you can have all 3 could be cut on top. Rabbi Akiva says no. Kishem shlulav echad ve'etrog echad, kach hadas echad v'arava echad. So we have the Rabbi Akiva says you only need 1 hadas, one arava, but it has to be whole. Amar lo Rabbi Eliezer. So Amar Rabbi Eliezer. Some remove the word lo. Rabbi Eliezer says the following. Yochol ye'etrogi mohem baguda achat. You might think that, the Torah, the Torah talks about the etrog, the hadassim, and the aravot. We know we tie the hadassim and the aravot to the lulav. So you might have thought that maybe we should tie the etrog together, tie it all together, the etrog to the hadassim and the aravot. Because Torah says lakachtem lochem. Torah says, that'll be interesting how you'll tie the etrog around the lulav. We'll put some sort of piece of the lulav. We'll take a little strip of the lulav and wrap it around the etrog and wrap it to the lulav. The same way you wrap the hadassim and the aravot, you'll securely wrap the etrog. You might have contemplated that, because you'll say, listen, it says take lakachtem lachem. Torah told to take these 4 things, and you're tying 3 of the 4. Why are you picking on 3 of the 4 together? Why not pick all 4? All 4 of them should be. But they said maybe it might not be as easy, might not be practical, but right. So then that's a good point. Maybe you'll have to say the bracha and then tie it together, or somehow, or turn it around. Good morning. So you might have said that maybe you should tie it together. So the Gemara says, "V'chinema amrit." I will tell you why you do not have to tie it together. You know why? V'chinema. Look at the language of the pasuk. The pasuk says, "Pre-eitz hada." It says, "I want you to take an etrog." Now, what's the next word? Pre-eitz hada, kapo tumarim. It doesn't say pre-eitz hada and this and that and that. If it would say in the Torah, I want you to take etrog and lulav and hadassim and aravot, that would mean you take it all together. But the fact the Torah says, I want you to take hadah, take a etrog, and then it says lulav. Let's say and lulav. It's missing the and. They're missing the vav that connects. So therefore, by the fact that Torah doesn't say v'kapot tomorrow, it says kapot tomorrow, says that they're separated from each other. They're independent of each other. They're not together. Yes, we actually hold them near each other, but we don't tie them together. But it doesn't say, right, Adam? It doesn't say pre-eitz hada and kapot tomorrow. It says pre-eitz hada, etrog. Then it says etrog, lulav. It doesn't say and lulav. You hear the nuance? It doesn't say and. When you say and, you're joining. And is a joiner, right? But without saying the and, it's not including it. So that's what the Gemara says. Amrit, I will tell you. V'chinema, does it say pre-eitz hada? Excuse me. Does it say pre-eitz hada v'kapo tumorim and the kapo tumorim? V'halalonema, it only says ela kapot. It says, doesn't say and elulav. It says kapot, lulav, which clearly you don't need to tie the etrog, because it's not etrog and lulav. It's etrog, lulav. Therefore, they're independent of each other. Therefore, you don't have to tie the etrog to the lulav. It's an amazing thing how you see from the Gemara, every letter of the Torah, it has such meaning. That vav, if it would have said a vav, then you would have to have tied it together. Again, that's according to the opinion. We know we established earlier that halachically you don't have to tie even the hadassim and aravot from a Torah perspective to the lulav. There isn't, because it's the only reason we tie it is to beautify it. But there was an opinion in the Gemara. Rabbi Yehuda says you must. It's a biblical law that you have to tie the hadassim and aravot to the lulav. And most probably this Gemara is going according to that idea, that you must tie the hadassim and the aravot to the lulav. So, and if you hold that you have to tie, good morning, doctor. If you hold you have to tie the hadassim and the aravot to the lulav, so that opinion, we want to know, if you have to tie those 3, why 3 out of the 4? Why not? If you're saying you have to tie, and the Gemara brought, because he had a gzeira shaveh, it says lakachtem, says the word lakachtem by this pasuk, and it says the word, when it comes to agudat ezav, it talks about a bundle. Also use the same word lakachtem. So just like over there, the Gemara says you got to tie it together. Here also it's tied together. It's only according to the opinion that says you need to tie it together. So why only tie 3 out of the 4? You should tie all 4. So the Gemara says, because that letter vav is not there. That vav, if all that one letter makes the whole difference of what is the meaning of what you need to do in life regarding the lulav and etrog hadas min haravot. So the Gemara says, uminayim shema'akvim zeh zeh. How do we know that they're ma'akev one another? That means if you do not take all 4, you do not get the mitzvah, right? If a person goes in and he takes a lulav, and he goes and he buys the most expensive etrog, and he buys the most expensive lulav, and the most best hadassim, but if you don't have the aravot, you don't get the mitzvah. Different than tefillin. Tefillin, if a person has the hand tefillin, but he doesn't have the shel rosh tefillin, he still gets the mitzvah of tefillin for the hand. It's not all or nothing. It's not that these are 2 parts of one mitzvah. The tefillin is one part of a mitzvah. No, these are 2 separate mitzvot. There's a mitzvah to put tefillin on your hand. There's another mitzvah to put on your head. If you don't have the tefillin for your head, you only have the tefillin for your hand. A guy chas v'shalom who doesn't have a hand to put on tefillin, he has a head. Or he lost his other hand, and he can't go ahead and he can't whatever the case is, he has to put on what he has. It's not one mitzvah. They're 2 independent mitzvot. But when it comes to hadassim and aravot, they're all one mitzvah. You gotta have them all, all of them in order to fulfill the mitzvah. Where do we know that from? So the Gemara says, Talmalomu lakachtem. Says you shall take them. It says lakachtem. The word says tam. Tam means complete. Shetehei lakicha tama. That it should be a complete taking. So you have to have all four species. If you're missing one, it's not kosher. Now, by the way, this idea that you have to have all 4 in order for it to be kosher, there's different midrashim that expound what does the lulav represent, what does the hadassim represent, what does the etrog, what are each of the 4 species? One of the beautiful midrashim, I think the Sefer Chinuch points brings it. There are different types of people in the Jewish community. There is the people that are the etrog people. Etrog, let's say, most probably represents the heart. They have a beautiful etrog is it has a beautiful smell, right? Etrog has a beautiful smell and a beautiful taste and smell. You eat it and you smell it. That represents the Jew who has Torah, who has mitzvot, who has good deeds. He's a Jew all around Jew. Then you have the lulav that comes from a date tree that has food, that has maybe Torah, Jews that might have Torah, but no smell. Maybe they don't have good deeds. They're not doing enough good deeds. They're not being proactive enough in helping people. Then you have the people, and they're not like the etrog, that's Torah and good deeds, and Torah and Ma'asim Tovim. Then you have the hadas. Hadas only has the smell, doesn't have any food. So maybe they do good deeds, Jews that do good deeds, but they're not Jews that are learning enough. Then you have the aravah, no smell and no taste. Those are Jews, no good, they're not doing good deeds, and they're not learning Torah. But what does the Torah say about all 4? You got to tie them all, bring them together. You got to bring all Jews together. All the Jews have to come, and they have to grow, and they have to be united. We shouldn't be splintered. But what do you got to do? You take the etrog, which represents the ideal Jew that has Torah and has mitzvot and good deeds. He has a smell and he has a taste. Put the other 3 next to that. He should be the role model for the other 3. You tie the other 3 together because the other 3 are not complete. They're missing something. Either they're missing both or they only have one or 2. But when you hold it next to the etrog, and the etrog is held separately, that means this is the role model. This is so beautiful. That represents Torah and good deeds. And when you connect all those other members of the Jewish community together to the etrog, then they'll be inspired and they'll grow. Therefore, we need all Jews. We can't write off any Jews. Therefore, if you're missing any of that ravot or any of that, you're missing a ravot hadassim, the Jew that has no taste and no smell, if they're missing from the table, it's invalid. Is that a beautiful idea, Mr. Haber? Everyone likes this beautiful chat? We should never forget about all the Jews, and therefore, just like a Sefer Torah, the Sefer Torah is missing a letter, it's invalid. Every Jew, no Jew should be left behind. Every Jew is key, because it will be incomplete, as Simon said. Have a great, we're going to be regular time on Monday. Is that all right? Monday will be regular time. I think Monday might be January 1st, but we're gonna, or whatever the date will be, but we'll regular time. Okay, looking forward to seeing everybody. Regular time, no change. All the best, everybody. And again, a big thank you to Anna for setting up shop today. Jaime, I want to wish you a beautiful Shabbat. Everything good? It's a legal holiday. Yeah, January, it's for New Year's. It's a New Year's holiday.